we are continuing our conversation with the candidates on the November 7th Quincy City election ballots. And for school committee, there are 3 seats that are up for re-election. There are 6 candidates for those 3 seats. One of them is joining us right now, Courtney Perdios, here in studio to tell us a little bit about herself, her background, and why she wants to serve on the Quincy School Committee. Good to see you, Courtney. Thanks for coming over.
Joe.
No, it's
Thanks.
our pleasure.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of let folks get a little more information about the person behind the name on the ballots. Certainly, you are no stranger to the Quincy Public Schools or the Quincy School Committee, for that matter, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
And yeah, this is my 3rd time running, actually. I was on the school committee for 10 months back in 2021. I first ran back in 2019. First-time candidate. I did pretty well, but was a couple hundred votes short. So about 18 months after that, there was a vacancy on the school committee, so I was appointed to fill that seat, and I had to run later that year to keep it, and I was about 52 votes short. So, power of every single vote matters, right? But I just think it's just so very important to have a current parent on the school committee. So I'm trying again this year to just try to get back on there and give parents and a voice on there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for folks who aren't familiar with you, Courtney, tell us a bit about yourself, about your background here in the city of Quincy, and specifically with the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 3 kids. I have my oldest is going into 10th grade at Quincy High this year. My middle is going into 8th grade at Central. And my youngest will be in 7th grade at Point Webster. We live down in Quincy Point. So three kids, 3 schools. And I've always been kind of a volunteer in our schools back since my oldest was younger. And just kind of trying to give back, trying to be able to just be a help to whatever the schools needed. Back when at Clifford Marshall, where my kids all went to elementary school, building community, raising funds. Over at Clifford Marshall, none of the children pay for field trips. So raising money was really important there to make sure every student could go. So that was kind of the needs at the time. So working on that, building community there. I started leading a family fun run and wellness expo, kind of building community, and that's grown to now be connected with Point Webster. So it's a really fun event every year. About 400 kids take part in that, or members of our community take part in that. So just really big in community building, bringing the schools together. And just kind of as I was doing that, kind of organically, you get connected with other parents across the city through citywide PTO, different events. And you just start to learn about the concerns and the differences and the good things some schools do and what could be applied to other schools. So just kind of a natural evolution that made me interested in running for school committee, watching the meetings, kind of hearing that they really did need a parent voice to kind of make sure that what they're talking about and the policies they're putting in place are relevant for what our kids are seeing and what they need. Not only the kids, but the staff and the teachers as well. So that's kind of why that's my desire to run. That's why I want to be a voice on there, to just kind of be that perspective to kind of land it to our Quincy kids specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Yep. So I'm a copy editor at Boston University School of Public Health. I've done that for about 15 years or so now. I work from home. I worked from home before it was, COVID cool to work from home.
Right.
So that's kind of been what I've done since having kids, and I also teach fitness classes at the Old Quincy Athletic Club and Crunch Fitness in Braintree. Prior to that, I worked at Sail Magazine, Art New England Magazine, different ad design production stuff. That's kind of my background is English, art, combining them together, graphic design.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quincy native?
No, my husband was.
Okay.
He was 6 months old when his family moved over to Quincy Point. So he imported me when we were dating. He said, if we're going to be together for the long term, you're going to need to come to Quincy and Quincy Point specifically, because he loved it so much. And I've grown to love it. I've been here for about it's going on, I think, 27 years now.
Wow.
So been here a long time.
Yeah.
But I've grown to love it, and we have great schools, great opportunities nearby to Boston. Lots of good things going on here. So I love it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your priorities for
Yeah.
the public schools and what you think is being done that's right right now and things you'd like to improve on?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, great question. So we do a lot of things right in Quincy schools. My kids have had a great opportunity, have had a great experience so far. Good opportunities, great teachers, kind of meeting their needs. But you do hear, as you advocate and as you volunteer in the schools and talk to parents, you do hear that it's not that case for every student. There are kids for who the system isn't working, whether it's a special education situation or whether it's a student that needs more advanced coursework that isn't getting it, or even whatever the case may be. There are those cases. So that's what really interests me and makes me want to make that system better. So the next family that deals with that specific topic, it doesn't have to reinvent the wheel and try to advocate for that. So how can we make the system better? I think we have some real concerns right now with getting kids back from COVID still. That's going to be a long-term kind of priority, I think, for everyone on the school committee, is getting them back academically. We had a lot of academic kind of fallout from kids that had, kids stayed home for 2 years. It's not the way school was supposed to be delivered, and teachers did great, parents did great, kids did great. We all did the best we could, but there's obviously consequences to what we did when we had to shut down schools. So we have to kind of get kids back academically, socially, and behaviorally. There's a lot of different things that happen in those 2 years. And I think we're seeing, teachers definitely are seeing just the differences in, kids able to sit, able to learn is different now than it was before. So we have a lot to do, a lot of work to do in bringing kids back and supporting them as we do. So that's definitely priority one. Priority two for me, it's always been something that I've worked on, is the fifth graders. So we have 11 elementary schools in Quincy, and in 9 of them are K to 5, right? So 2 of our elementary schools only go K to 4. So that's leaving about 200 fifth graders, and they all go off to middle school a year earlier than those other 9 elementary schools. And it's supposed to be temporary. It was back in the day. It's been about that way for almost 20 years now, and it was designed to be for a temporary purpose.
Which 2 schools?
So yes, Clifford Marshall and Lincoln Hancock.
Okay.
So they're only K to 4.
Okay.
And those families are sending their kids off every year, and they're not being prioritized as trying to get those kids back like it was always designed to be.
I see.
So I feel like that's such a high priority, especially for me, and in those communities, it's absolutely important. I'm sure we'll talk about the Squantum school, but I think if that were floated to be a K to 4 school, I think that we'd have a lot of concerns from families over in Squantum about that being the case. So why is it okay for our families down in the Point and in Southwest Quincy to kind of have to deal with this every year?
Okay, so you think 5th grade should stay in the
definitely stay in elementary school,
Okay.
yeah, for a multitude of reasons. Curriculum's the same, obviously, but everything else is different.
Okay.
They're seeing vaping, they're seeing more mature relationships, they're seeing fighting, just things that you would deal with in middle school that aren't as the norm in elementary school.
Okay,
so that's important to me.
Okay.
I could go on all day, Joe. You know me.
Just on that, right?
Yeah, no, but a lot of different topics. Advanced curriculum, trying to get our kids in younger grades to have more availability and access to advanced curriculum opportunities. Our advanced program doesn't officially start until 5th grade. Actually, historically, we brought it down a little bit. I've been part of that team that's brought the REACH program down a little bit into 4th grade just to start.
Wow.
And we're going to try to keep going down lower and lower, but it's really important to offer those kids in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade who are working above grade level on coursework, the opportunity to just keep learning and growing their own knowledge, not just given an extra worksheet or something like that.
Okay, so advanced placement courses at that young an age?
Well, not really advanced placement, but just advanced coursework.
Oh, okay.
So
All
just
right. Okay.
enrichment opportunities, how to go deeper into those standards, so that they're learning more, and they're not just biding their time till they get to 5th grade when they, or 4th or 5th grade when they get the official QPS advanced programming in place.
Interesting. Yeah. So focus on their strengths, right?
Yeah. Right. Right. And I mean, we have 2 buildings coming online, so really focusing on making sure those get put into place correctly and well, and we don't just build the building without kind of taking the time to make sure everything in there is what our families need, what our communities need.
Which buildings are coming online, Courtney?
So the Squantum School, Squantum Elementary School, is just starting that process kind of now, a little earlier in the process.
Yeah.
And the Dr. Victor Cristofaro Early Education Learning Center, or the Special Ed building, as a lot of families know it as. So those two buildings are coming online.
Okay. Well, are those two things that you would have supported had you been on the school committee?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. The Squantum community has been more than patient for this building. I was able to tour it when I was on the school committee in 2021, and just there's a lot of infrastructure that needed to be replaced and updated, and the dumbwaiter to pulling all the food up to the cafeteria
unique,
level.
yeah.
It's crazy actually that's still the case. So they've been really patient in waiting for this building. Things that concern me a little bit are, I just heard actually on your show when the superintendent was here, and he mentioned that the community meeting that the community has actually been really waiting for, this update, is scheduled for September 14th.
Yes.
That's also the same night as all of the middle school open houses.
Ah.
So making sure that those families that have an elementary school kiddo and a middle school kid, now do we need to decide which event are we going to go to? So just making sure, so that's why it's really important, I think, to have a parent on there to say, hey, this community cares, but they also have may have another child.
Okay.
So how can we do this in a way that really encourages community involvement to the best that they can?
Yeah, so I guess brings up the question, does there need to be improved communication between the school system and families?
Absolutely.
It does, yeah.
Absolutely. We did do an update on the website. It's a little bit better, a little bit easier to find some things. The back to school guide, I actually want to call out and say that was amazing and really, really great. That was something that was improved, but there's always ways, with families that don't speak English as a native language, we got to increase our translation services, and just be more transparent and open and honest, and not have to have families, move heaven and earth to find out some information.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely. And I think that, again, it helps to kind of connect the school population, the families, to the leadership of the schools by having a parent on there.
Yeah,
that can kind of bring that information.
To that end, too, as you're well aware, there's been an increased effort to increase diversity among the student staff, rather, and administration to better reflect the student body. How do you think that process is going?
Yeah, I mean, there have been multiple updates that the superintendent has brought to the school committee. I don't, know too much further about their efforts to do so, but from those discussions, they've talked about all the ways they're trying to reach out and get more diverse candidates to come forward to be teachers, to be, at every level, really, custodians, security teams. I know they're trying. I don't know if the candidates are just not there. I don't know exactly what the hurdles are. I mean, I'm hoping that they're working on that. Kim Conley is the EDI director for the district, and hopefully she's addressing those as well and trying to find ways to bring those candidates in and apply. But it's definitely important. Our kids, half of them are Asian American of descent, and seeing themselves in the people in our school buildings is really important.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about standardized testing, Courtney, and how you feel about the MCAS requirements?
I would love for the MCAS requirement to not be connected to funding for our schools. And as soon as I think the state, they're talking about trying to separate that out, and as soon as that happens, I think that everyone's on board with not holding the MCAS as a requirement. But until that happens, we are kind of
tied to it.
Tied to having that in our schools for now.
Okay.
But the MAP test is a lot more user-friendly. I think teachers can use that MAP test for more. They get their responses right away. They can make change to the curriculum and the kids' needs right away. They don't have to kind of wait 6 months for the MCAS results to come back.
Okay. What is the MAP test?
It's I don't know what the acronym stands for.
Right.
It's a test that we run 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And I believe we start that in second or third grade, and it goes up. And not exactly sure where it ends. I'm pretty sure it ends around 8th grade.
Okay.
And it's in English and science and math, and it shows the learning, and there's a RIT score that it shows the way that child has progressed from one test to another, and just really instant results. It kind of says what areas of focus that students ready to learn next, and teachers can just put it in place right away.
Okay. Is this something that was developed just in Quincy schools, or?
No, that's across the state, and that we put that into place years ago. But it's always we've run them concurrently with the MCAS. But I think the MAP's always been a lot more user friendly, and everyone's preferred that.
Okay. All right. What else?
Goodness, Joe. Let's see. So really, just I think my highest priority again is just being a voice for families on there. Right now, no one on the school committee, despite different backgrounds they bring and expertises they bring, we don't have a parent on there. We don't have a current parent of a current Quincy Schools student on there. And I just think that's so necessary to just making sure that what we're doing is right for our kids, and this discussions we're having are right. And we're talking about things that are relevant for them with social media, technology, post-COVID concerns. Everything changes so quickly, and I think that's just so important to have a current parent on there, and also someone who will stick up for our teachers. Maybe the last thing I want to kind of bring up that we haven't talked about yet is, watching the teacher contract negotiations over the winter was heartbreaking. It was really hard to watch our teachers teach our kids all day and then go out and hold signs in the cold asking for benefits that nearby communities are offering their teachers, and just the level of respect. It was probably even more than just the contents of the contract. It was more the way they were treated, and kind of they had to go to the community to ask for support because their leaders weren't there for them, weren't seeing that value, and that's too bad. And and I think we really need someone on there who isn't afraid to speak up for our teachers and say how important they are. To our kids, to the whole system. They're the backbone to our system. And if we're not supportive of them and what they need, then we're not going to be as good of a district as we have been so far. So that's important, I think, too, to have someone who's not afraid to kind of stand up and make sure we're in line on that as well.
Okay.
And just being more, again, an advocate for our kids and for our teachers than a politician. I don't really see this role as, it shouldn't be a political role. It should be an advocate for what our system needs.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I was just, that's why I'm running, to just be that advocate.
Are there areas in the school system that you think need support with more staff or more professional development, or areas that should be created that don't exist right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely we need staff. We need more teachers. We need in keeping our veteran teachers, that's why we need to offer them, an incentive to stay and to keep going through the COVID challenges that we're facing. So we need to keep our veteran teachers. We need to get new teachers, mid-range teachers who have some background but aren't quite at the veteran stage yet. As you mentioned, the diverse backgrounds of people that we're hiring. We need more foreign language teachers. I know this year at Central, we don't have a French teacher at Central this year, so our 8th grade students are all taking Spanish. So that's just something that's limited because of who we're able to hire, and I think it's across the state, if not the country, about its shortage of teachers. And so I think that we definitely need to do that, expanding our advanced curriculum team, the REACH team. That's going to allow us to bring that advanced coursework down to younger grades. So I'd love to see them add some more positions in next year's budget for that.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and mental health specialists, people that can support and take the pressure off our guidance team and our assistant principals, to kind of meet some of these challenges our kids are seeing after COVID re-entering schools.
Yeah, there's been discussion about either bringing back or instituting a program to identify students who are kind of falling behind before it gets to the point where they're not going to graduate.
Right.
Is that something that you think is a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, we got to kind of keep track of this stuff. But I mean, we really have a good system in place now of having progress reports. And
yep.
The more communication we have between our teachers and our families and the schools and our families, the better. So the more opportunities those families can get in and learn how their students are doing is great.
Yeah. What are folks telling you out on the, you've been outdoor knocking already, Courtney, right?
Yep, we've been out there since June.
Yeah,
yep.
What are they telling you? What are their concerns? What are they happy about? What do they like to see improved?
Yeah, no, it's been great. And I feel like now, right around Labor Day is the time people start coming back from vacation in summer and saying, oh, there's an election coming up.
Right.
And so the last couple of months has been a lot of just, oh, hey, there is an election coming up. And, these are the candidates that are on the ballot. These are the seats that are open. This is why I want to run. So just reintroducing myself to voters again, and but now I think people are paying attention, and they are, talking about issues. They're talking about the concerns about COVID, like I mentioned. They're talking about, and they're asking me what my priorities are. So I've been mentioning at the door a lot of what we're talking about here.
Okay.
And there are actually a lot of people are surprised to know that we don't have someone on there right now that has children in the school system, and that seems to be really important to people, because a lot of people I'm talking to don't have kids in the school system, and they feel disconnected. So imagine how we have a school committee made up of people that don't. So that disconnect, again, it makes it so that we can't make relevant and really needed conversations and policies for our kids that they're seeing today.
Yeah. As the only parent, though, do you think you'd be supported by your colleagues on the school committee with some of the
I hope
ideas
so.
that you have?
I hope so. I mean, I was on there for 10 months with
Right.
most of them, and I asked questions when they needed to be asked, and I
Yeah.
spoke up when I thought something needed to be said. But I've worked with a school committee member Guttrow. I've worked with Ms. Lebo. I've worked with Mr. Santoro on a lot of different initiatives. So I know Mr. Santoro and Mr. Guttrow are supportive of the 5th grade, trying to bring the 5th grade back to those elementary schools. We've spoken on that before, and advanced curriculum ideas. So things that are important to me are also important to them.
Okay.
And I think building that consensus. I've worked with the mayor on trying to get more technology into the schools before COVID. I remember when we were talking about having a 1-to-4 ratio versus student to technology ratio was great before COVID, and now we're 1-to-1.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the norm going forward. But the viability of can we keep that going once COVID funding ends is a new challenge for us.
Yeah, I think they
So-
just purchased a bunch of new
Yeah.
Chromebooks for
Yeah.
the coming school year because I found out they expire after a while.
Yep. So that's going to be a continued expense for the schools
Right.
that we didn't have before COVID. So for taxpayers, making sure that we're using those dollars for things that are needed, not things that are not needed. So the Chromebooks are now going to be a new need going forward, I think, in our world, our society now. So we're going to have to figure out a way to handle that.
Yeah. Do you think the cell phone ban is a good idea in the schools, Courtney?
So what they're doing at the high schools, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're allowing kids to use it in hallways,
Right.
at lunch, at study break, all that stuff. But during class time, they're asked to be put away. And I think that's just respectful of the teacher. They do have those Chromebooks if they need a technology piece in the classroom, so there are options. But they don't have to take it out, and it's distracting, for all of us, for me as well. So I think when you need to focus on academics and class time, which is super important. The cell phone goes away, it can come back out after. It's a tool that kids these days use, so we don't want to take it away for the entire day, I don't think. But it's working at the high schools. I'd like to see it get down a little bit into the middle schools. I think there's more of a concern there with the way they're being used in middle school. Kids aren't quite as mature yet, so they don't maybe know as much to put it away, and so I think we need to build that down to the middle schools now as well. Expand that.
What do you think about the partnership between the Quincy Public Schools and Quincy College and the way that works?
There's really, there's not a whole bunch of crossover for parents, day to day to kind of have that, but I know that some of the staff and the resources are shared. So as far as the school committee, we don't really oversee too much of that. So, how that works is something that I need to probably learn a little bit more about, the ways that we can work together. I know that the early college high school program and dual enrollment, those type of opportunities are good for our students. I hope that our teachers that are involved in that on the QPS side of things at the high schools are being given the resources they need through the college too, and they're not just being asked to do that. So hopefully, as long as we're supporting our teachers in the Quincy Public Schools, I'm happy with that, and we're giving those opportunities to kids. But as far as more on the leadership level of things, there probably could be more that I could learn about how that works as well.
Okay. Campaign strategy going forward to November 7th?
Labor Day is upon us,
Yep.
so 2 months, so full speed ahead. It's our big push to Election Day. Now is when signs are going to be coming out soon and standouts. We have some candidates nights coming up, candidates forums. I believe the Quincy Dems is having one on September 28th. That's going to be in person at Central. I'm looking forward to that. Citywide PTO is having theirs on October 16th, which is my birthday. And I'll have some cake after that one. But I'm excited for all these opportunities just to be able to, talk about the issues. That's really important to me. I love door knocking and being able to talk to people at the door about the issues. So.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Were you going to?
That was it.
We're going to stay active in the Quincy Public Schools, regardless of what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's what I do anyway. I've run 2 times before, and all the times in between, working on different PTO events, organizing things at the schools, working with our students, working with our families. It's what I do. It's my passion. It's why I want to run. So not working on it, because of the results of an election, doesn't even occur to me. I remember working at Quincy High Senior Stay Out Night. It's an opportunity. It's an after prom party. It's just it's so amazing that we give our kids a safe way to enjoy after prom, and just things like that are so important to how our schools work and what we offer our students. So not doing that work isn't even an option for me.
Okay. Is there a way for folks to get in contact with you, your campaign coordinator?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is CourtneyPerdios.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook. It's Courtney Perdios for Quincy School Committee. You can look me up on that. And email CourtneyPerdios@yahoo.com. And we'd love to have everyone on board and come out and help us with the big push to the end. Campaigns are hard, and it's hard to get the message out to everyone. So every little bit of help we can get would be fantastic.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share with folks right now?
That's it. I think we covered it all.
All right. Well, thanks for coming over. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're very welcome.
All right.
And thank you for watching us here at AM Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. We'll see you next time.